What Congress thinks of Google Glass privacy, Microsoft can see your Skype messages, and Strongbox is released. All that and more this time on ThreatWire. Hello and welcome to ThreatWire. My name is Shannon Morse, and this is your summary of what's threatening security, privacy, and internet freedom. The first story is all about Google Glass. The recent release of Google Glass developer kits have started making their way into the public, and this has spurred some controversy having to do with privacy, of course. Now, given the recent articles about Glass and privacy, Congress wrote an open letter to Larry Page, the CEO of Google. The letter explains that many questions have started to rise, such as facial recognition technology and banning glass in bars, which actually did happen. It's kind of awesome. Congress asked Mr. Page how he intends to protect users' privacy after the concerns with Google collecting information from wireless networks in their Street View cars. They also ask about reselling glass and protection for the owner, opting out of facial recognition for anybody else, along with the protection of user data stored on the device. Congress does raise some important questions. I have to wonder too, if I were to purchase Google Glass and leave it sitting somewhere unlocked for some horrible reason, and somebody else came over, just picked it up and put it on, and they could see any photos or data that I had stored on the glass, right? You can currently tell when glass is on because you can see a small light on it, but I wouldn't really know if someone was recording me or just checking the news if I'm not familiar with the product. Now, Google has commented on one part of the letter. Steve Lee, Director of Product Management for Google Glass, said, "We've consistently said we won't add new face recognition features to our services unless we have strong privacy protections in place." So, is Congress just making a big fuss about this, or do they have a reason to be concerned about the new device's privacy practices?
Thanks, Shannon. Now, Skype conversations might not be as secure as you once thought. In a recent study here by Ars Technica, private messages were exchanged containing links to honeypots, basically servers that log connections made to them. And with the help of security researcher Ashkan Soltani, the news and technology website was able to determine that Microsoft follows links exchanged in Skype chat, proving that at least some amount of monitoring is done by the Redmond software giant. Now, Skype started as a voice over IP service by the makers of the peer-to-peer file sharing service Kazaa. Remember that? It garnered a user base of around 600 million, and it was acquired by Microsoft in 2011 for $8.5 billion. And while the protocol is proprietary in nature, many are under the belief that the communications are encrypted end-to-end. It's unclear if the entire message contents are stored and monitored by Microsoft, or simply the links, perhaps a means to combat the spread of malware. But one thing is for sure, your Skype messages aren't private. Many secure means of communications exist, including PGP or pretty good privacy, as well as the likes of Android applications like Redphone or TextSecure from thoughtcrime.org, but none seem to have garnered such a widespread adoption of Skype. Previous to the Microsoft acquisition, Skype actually routed all of its communications through what are known as supernodes in a peer-to-peer model, but this model has been abandoned for a more centralized, Microsoft-controlled, and it seems Microsoft-monitored model. Back to you, Shannon.
Remember Strongbox? Well, it's officially released to anyone who wants to use it. Strongbox was being developed by Aaron Swartz before his passing, and the open source project was picked up and finished by several developers afterwards. This project aimed to make sharing information with writers and editors of news outlets truly anonymous and secure. It was originally termed Dead Drop, and this code would be the backbone of privacy for journalists and anonymous sources. Now, the New Yorker coined their version Strongbox, and they released it on May 15th. So to use Strongbox, you first must download Tor, which is software that lets you search the net, browse, and use technology without the threat of your private information being stolen or used. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about Tor and why some people may not choose to use it, but you can check it out for yourself over at torproject.org. Now, second, you go to a Strongbox website after starting Tor on your browser. The second link gives you directions on how to submit files and messages to The New Yorker. A unique random username will be created for your use, used once, and then discarded. Or, the really cool thing about this is, you can also reuse the same username to access the messages from the writer or editor in Strongbox. Now, this is the fun part. Once files are transmitted, the journalist has to download it onto a thumb drive, and then they have to boot up on a computer that wipes itself after each and every shutdown. Then they have to connect a second thumb drive with decryption keys to that laptop. And then they have to take the first thumb drive and plug that one into there with the file on it. And they use the decryption key on the second thumb drive to decrypt the file or messages on the first thumb drive. Oh my gosh, that's kind of a pain in the butt, don't you think? Now, while a journalist might not have to give up their anonymous sources to a court, we have seen the AP phone records secretly obtained by the Justice Department in the US. Now, using a system such as Dead-Drop or Strongbox will give sources one way to protect themselves in the event that something like this occurs again.
Now, last week we asked you how you feel about the Unlocking Technology Act of 2013, and our comment of the week comes from Alec G, who writes, "The bill has come way too late. For years, companies have forced people to sign expensive contracts in return for terrible service and then the inability to change to a better carrier. Although some argue that you can unlock a phone by buying it at a store, why can't you unlock a phone after the contract has ended? You've paid much more than the actual price for the quality. I hope the bill passes and users have the rights to use their technology as they please."
This week, we'd like to know how you feel about Google Glass privacy concerns. Is it a big deal or just another device, like a smartphone? Make sure to comment below on what you think. Now remember, you can find all the ways to subscribe at threatwire.org and get involved in our Google Plus community. That's where the conversation continues all week. And with that, I'm Shannon Morris, and for Darren Kitchen, we'll see you on the internet next week.